Imagine a young nobleman, in his early 20s, staring down his own mother across a battlefield. The air reeks of betrayal, the ground shudders under heavy cavalry, and the birth of a nation hangs in the balance. This isn't a Hollywood script, it's the brutal reality of Dom Afonso Henriques, the founding father of Portugal. Born around 1109, and the grandson of the powerful Alfonso VI of León, he inherited a shaky, unstable county in the northwest of the Iberian Peninsula. But Afonso wasn't interested in being a mere vassal count. He wanted a crown. In 1128, he famously overthrew his mother, Countess Teresa, at the Battle of São Mamede. From there, he didn't stop. He seized legendary Muslim strongholds like Lisbon and Santarém and defied the neighbouring empires that sought to crush him. By IT Metas, why should you care today? Because without this man, Portugal would likely be just another Spanish province. We're going to strip away the myths, like the divine visions at Ourique, and reveal the real warrior. Ambitious, violent, and a political genius, ready for the historical truth? Let's dive in. Afonso Henriques enters history amidst a web of Iberian intrigue. Son of Count Henry of Burgundy, a French crusader sent to marry Teresa, the illegitimate daughter of King Alfonso VI, he was born between 1106 and 1111, likely in Guimarães or Coimbra. The exact date. Historians still debate it, but the context is what matters. A wealthy but unstable county of Portugal, the literal frontier between Christians and Muslims. When Afonso was only 3, his father died. His mother, Teresa, took over as regent, but she soon allied herself with the powerful Galician house of Trava, treating her son as a mere pawn. Afonso grew up in a divided court. Portuguese nobles wanted autonomy, while the Galicians demanded submission to the kingdom of León. By his early teens, around 1122, he was knighted in Zamora, training with the lance, shield, and chainmail, the core kit of a medieval warlord. The tension exploded in 1128 at the Battle of São Mamede. Backed by his tutor Igasmones and local lords, Afonso crushed his mother's forces. Teresa was exiled to Galicia. Sources like the Historia Compostelana, a hostile Galician account, paint Afonso as a usurper. Later Portuguese chronicles glorify him as a liberator. The reality? A cold-blooded internal coup, local power versus Castilian centralism. After his victory, Afonso made Guimarães his base, later marrying Maud of Savoy to secure European alliances. He then turned his gaze south, the Reconquista. Showing no mercy to internal rivals, he killed or exiled any opposition, forging unity in a fractured land. By 1135, the political chessboard of the Iberian Peninsula was shifting, and Afonso Henriques was the one moving the pieces. He made a calculated, strategic move. He relocated his capital from the traditional northern heartlands of Guimarães to Coimbra. This wasn't just a change of scenery. It was a declaration of war. Coimbra was the edge of the world, the epicenter of the holy war against the Almoravid Empire. It was a city of stone and tension, where the sound of church bells often mingled with the call to prayer from nearby Muslim outposts. From his new base Afonso launched series brutal campaigns. Around 1140, the fortress of Leiria fell to his forces, proving that this rebel count was now a formidable military commander. But the true turning point, the moment that would define the Portuguese identity forever, happened in 1139, the Battle of Ourique. If you visit Portugal today, you'll hear the legend of Ourique. They say that on the eve of the battle, Christ appeared to Afonso in a blinding vision, promising him an eternal kingdom and victory over 5 Moorish kings. This is often cited as the origin of the Queenas, the 5 blue shields on the Portuguese flag. It's a beautiful story of divine right, but here's the historical myth-busting. That vision is almost certainly a 16th century invention. Contemporary sources, like the Crónica de Portugal, don't mention a single miracle. The reality was much more grounded, yet arguably more impressive. It was a massive, high-stakes confrontation in the plains of the Lower Alentejo. Afonso didn't win because of a ghost. He won through superior heavy cavalry tactics and sheer relentless ambition. This victory provided the political momentum he needed to take the ultimate gamble. On April 10, 1140, Afonso did something that would have been unthinkable for any other nobleman in Europe. In a donation letter to the monastery of Santa Maria de Vilarinho, he signed his name with a title that changed history, Rex. For the first time, he wasn't count or prince. He was king. The Latin text is hauntingly bold. Ego egregius Rex Alponsus, Princeps totius Portugallensium. I, the illustrious King Afonso, Prince of all the Portuguese. Think about the sheer ego required for this. He was the grandson of the Emperor of Hispania, the son of a count and a queen, and he simply decided that he no longer answered to the kingdom of León. He ignored King Alfonso VII of León and proclaimed himself a sovereign. It was an act of supreme political arrogance, and it was genius. He didn't wait for permission to be a king. He seized the crown and dared the world to take it back. But being a king is about more than just a title. It's about recognition. Afonso began a masterclass in medieval diplomacy. In 1143, he met his cousin at the Treaty of Zamora. On paper, it was a pretend vassalage to keep the peace, but in practice, it was the first time León tacitly acknowledged Afonso as a peer. However, Afonso knew he needed a higher power to escape the Spanish shadow. He turned to the Vatican. He spent decades wooing the papacy, eventually securing the ultimate prize in 1179. Pope Alexander III issued the papal bull Manifestus Probatum, officially addressing him as Rex Portugallensis, by placing his kingdom under the direct protection of the Pope. Afonso bypassed the Iberian emperors entirely. He made Portugal a client state of Rome, ensuring that no neighbour could legally swallow his lands. Afonso wasn't above playing dirty to achieve his goals. In 1147, during the Second Crusade, a fleet of northern European crusaders, English, Flemish, and German, stopped in Portugal on their way to the Holy Land. Afonso saw an opportunity. He convinced these battle-hardened mercenaries to help him take Lisbon. It wasn't a holy mission. It was a business deal involving the promise of loot and land. The Siege of Lisbon lasted 3 grueling months, ending in a horrific final massacre as the walls were breached. Afonso didn't care about the optics. He cared about the harbour. With Lisbon in his hands, he had the Atlantic gateway he needed to make Portugal a global player. The myth tells us Afonso was chosen by God. The history tells us he was a man of cold ambition, tactical brilliance, and a willingness to spill blood, even his own mother's, to forge a nation. He didn't find a kingdom. He built one out of iron, ink, and fire. On December 6, 1185, in the city of Coimbra, the rugged fortress capital he had carved out of a war zone, Dom Afonso Henriques drew his last breath. He was in his mid-70s secunda, staggering for a medieval warrior who had spent over 5 decades in the saddle. Behind him, he left a son, Sonko I, a secured border, and a title that no empire could ever take back, the founder. But what was his true inheritance? It wasn't just a line on a map or a collection of stone walls. Afonso left a blueprint for survival. He took a small, isolated county and taught it how to punch far above its weight class. He transformed a fragmented group of nobles into a nation of survivors. He wasn't the saint that later chronicles tried to invent, nor was he a mere chosen one of divine visions. He was something far more impressive, a man of flesh and blood who looked at the 2 greatest powers of his time, the Christian emperors of the north and the Almohad caliphates of the south, and simply said, "No!" Afonso Henriques was a son who overthrew his mother, a vassal who defied his king, and a commander who used holy crusaders as cold-blooded mercenaries. He was violent, he was unyielding, and his methods were often stained with the very sins the church condemned. But without that iron-fisted ruthlessness, there would be no Portugal. Today, he rests in the monastery of Santa Cruz, a silent witness to the country he willed into existence. He didn't just find a kingdom. He hammered it out of Iberian granite with his own 2 hands. Was he a visionary hero or a brilliant tyrant? Perhaps, in the 12th century, you couldn't be one without the other. Portugal wasn't born from a miracle. It was born from the ambition of a man who refused to be a pawn. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the gritty, unfiltered truth of the man who started it all, hit that like button. It's the best way to help us keep bringing these legendary sagas to life. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Portugal would have survived if Afonso hadn't been so ruthless? Let's talk about it in the comments below. And if you haven't yet, subscribe and share this video with a fellow history buff. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next chapter of history.